Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome to Message in the Middle. I'm your host, Marianne, and joining me today is Katharine Giovanni, a 3-time award-winning best-selling author, speaker, and one of the original founders of the independent concierge industry. Katharine has authored 12 books, including her latest release, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power. Katharine's journey from navigating a very challenging childhood to battling stage 3 breast cancer has given her insight and experience with resilience and forgiveness. And she's here today to share some of that history, some of that expertise with us. Katharine, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So you've written several personal development books. I'll put them in that bucket for a minute. What led you to focusing on forgiveness? Was there a list and this was naturally number 12, or how did that go?
In order to forgive, you have to experience its opposite. And let's just say politely, there's a lot of water under my bridge. I come from a dysfunctional background, 2 very pickled parents, meaning they were alcoholics. I was bullied in school, tried to commit suicide in the 8th grade, and I just kind of floated through life as one of those angry teenagers. You know the ones I'm talking about. And I was angry, angry. And I had this story that I used to tell people. I'm a survivor of an alcoholic family, and I was proud of my story, and I just paraded it around. And I was sick and tired all the time, and I kept getting all these Tom, Dick, and Harry flu bugs that would walk down the street. I would catch it, and I was sick, and I was tired, and I had my friend circle had kind of depleted, and then my mother fell down a flight of stairs, broke her hip, and ended up in the hospital. And even my mother couldn't drink a gin and tonic in the hospital, so she dried out. And we sent her to rehab, and we spent the next few years closer than sisters, and we were tight. And then she died of breast cancer. And that was, everybody who looks back at their life can look at that 1 or 2. Some people have more than one, but that flashpoint of their life where everything changed. And you didn't know it at the time, but that was my flashpoint. When she died, I knew that if I didn't change, I was going to die. So I quit drinking. It was the only New Year's resolution I actually ever kept. And what year is it? I'm 35 years sober at last count.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's when I kind of started forgiveness, because all of those programs say you have to forgive, you got to reach out, you have to make amends. Okay, I'm an extroverted introvert now, but back then I was painfully shy. And there was I would have totally texted these people happily. We didn't have texting. We didn't have computers. That's how old I am. We didn't have any of that. You had to call. It was your only choice.
Yeah.
And the thought of calling somebody who might yell at me on the other side, I'm not doing that. Not doing it. But I did pay it lip service. And eventually I started to teach people how to forgive in my business programs. And that was unusual because back in the 90s and the late 80s, you didn't bring soft topics to a business program. It wasn't done. But I legitimately can't teach you how to be warm, friendly, and approachable, and how to be an outstanding concierge and customer service if you're angry inside, because your anger is going to bleed through your body language whether you want it to or not. So I had to come up with a method that they could relieve their anger, and I wanted it to be permanent, while they were still at their desk. And that's how everything started. You know, the thing about forgiveness is everybody tells you need to forgive. Your parents, your pastor, your teachers, everybody. Nobody teaches you how. How? And what if I don't want to? What if it's unforgivable? Then what do? I don't want to forgive. Then what do you do? So I've developed a step-by-step system that allows you to actually forgive people. And You don't have to reach out and talk to them. Forgiveness doesn't mean repair. It does not. You don't have to reach out. This is my method. You can do in the privacy of your own home, and nobody has to know you're doing it. So you could forgive dead people too if you wanted to, because where they are or are not doesn't matter a lick. They're living in your head.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You want to get them out of your head. So tell us a little bit about that, because you're right. I don't think there's a lot out there on how to forgive. Talk to us a little bit and set the stage for people that haven't heard you talk before, haven't read the book yet. I think there's some foundational premises on how you start this process that may make people go, wouldn't have thought about it that way.
Okay. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably don't, to be fair. You're still, on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable, dumpster fire, and 1 being easy, you're probably still a 10. And you're going to have to make amends, and you're going to have to do whatever you're going to do. And just because I forgive you, this one really trips people up. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean you were correct. I'm not giving in. I'm not giving you a pass. You're still wrong. Forgiveness for me, the formal definition means I want you out of my head. That's it. I want to stop thinking about you. I want to stop dreaming about you. And if I go into a bakery, I don't want to smell cookies and all of a sudden think about you. I want it to stop. I want to start paying attention to other parts of my life. Remember, it doesn't mean they were right. It doesn't mean they were correct. It means I want you out of my head. Now, one of the things that people bandy around says, well, forgive and you'll forget. Okay, I'm from New York City. Your girl is not forgetting anything. We don't forget. But what I can promise you is neutrality. Using my method, you're probably not going to forget what happened, but it will remove the emotional charge to that person. So you can see their name or you can see them at a party and you won't care. You really won't give a damn. Excuse my language. You won't care good. You won't care bad. You just won't care. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for neutrality. Happened to me a few years ago. I saw an ex-business partner of mine on Facebook and I saw her name. Usually that would just send me into a memory and I'd get mad all over again. I didn't care. Even wished them a happy birthday. Didn't care. Legitimately didn't care. And I actually caught myself and I thought, wait a minute. I don't care. When did I stop caring? It was very eye-opening to me that I didn't care. And now I can look back at my childhood and I can see the adults that were trying to help that young kid. And I can see the love that was back there. Now I could regurgitate the bad things. I use that word purposely. I could come up with all of those bad things if you want me to, but I really don't remember them anymore. See, on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable and 1 being easy, 10 out of 10 people listening to this podcast right now are thinking of their number 10. You're thinking about that one person that hurts you the most, and that's fair. I don't blame you. I did too. But my method is I want you to start with the easy ones. And we'll get to the number 10s, but at the moment, I'm the only one that will tell you this. You don't have to forgive the unforgivable. Why? Because there's a lot of people, places, and things, and I did say places and things, please stay with me, that you can forgive before you even get to that dumpster fire. There's other things.
That was the thing that I think for me that's so foundational that most people wouldn't think of. It's not to focus on that big thing.
That's
it's
right.
to actually back up and to focus on the small things. And so can you elaborate on that? Like, how is it just a practice thing? Is it just a practice thing? And I'm saying I'm intentionally saying that too. But is it just a practice thing that I try to forgive little things, the guy that screwed up my coffee or the person that almost ran into me at a stop sign? I'm making those things up. But is that the type of thing?
Those are the little ones.
Yeah. If I get into the habit, is it that I just get good at it?
It is. There's the special sauce to the whole thing. And when I finally figured out this special sauce that nobody else had really thought about, it opened everything up completely. And it's energy. The reason people don't stay forgiven is you didn't forgive the energy. Einstein clearly said energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms it from one thing to another. So everybody thinks when words leave my mouth, especially anger and emotions, you think it just dissipates in the universe. And most of us, 99.9% of us, we don't think about it at all. But it hangs around your energy field. It doesn't go away. It stays. It's thick. It's nasty. and it's not going to clear until you forgive it. So I get people say, I did forgive them. I did forgive my mom, my dad, my sibling, my partner, but they're not staying forgiven, are they? That's because you didn't forgive the energy. Everything in our world has energy around it, including this little silver microphone in front of me. It has energy around it. So the reason I'm telling you, you don't have to forgive the unforgivable and start with the easy is because maybe you can't. We'll use my father as an example. Let's talk about the unforgivable. And then I'll go through step by step the actual system so everybody can hear.
Sure.
Okay. But when it comes to the unforgivable, I couldn't forgive Dad. I couldn't even forgive the energy around the man. That's how angry I was. So I picked apart memories, and I started small and I worked my way up. And I picked apart the memory, and I picked a memory of, just a random dinner. He used to keep, when he was drunk, he used to keep us at the table and lecture us for hours. Okay, I was a kid. It probably wasn't hours, but it felt like hours. And he only did it when he was drunk. So I thought, I can't forgive him, but I can forgive other things in the memory. I can forgive my brother. I can forgive the energy around my brother. I can forgive the table. I'm not kidding. The energy around the table. I can forgive the building, the chair, the ground, the date. I can forgive all these other things in the memory. And I haven't even gotten to Dad yet. And maybe that kind of takes the 10, the stinging 10 down to a 9. So what I want you to do, you cannot, and by the way, you can't get a number 10 level person down to a 1 overnight. Ain't going to happen. It's going to take a minute. This is most people call this shadow work because you're working in the shadows of your past. And this is going to take a little bit. And some of it might be a little painful, but once it's cleared forever. So I want you to sit down and I want you to write a list of all the people you think you need to forgive. And I want you to actually write it with a pen and paper. I know young people want to use their phone, but there have been hundreds of studies done that there's something magical when it enters your brain and goes down your arm and you actually physically write it on a piece of paper. There's something magical about it, and it sticks more than it would if you're just typing it. So write a list of all the people you think you need to forgive. And then I want you to rate them from 1 to 10, 10 being awful. 1 being the person who cut you off in the grocery store yesterday on aisle 4. 1 being the person who stole your sandwich from the lunchroom. Come on, you can forgive that person. They were hungry. They forgot their lunch. Stupid, easy things. The person who cut you off yesterday, something like that. And I want you to write down people from the sandbox to your present day, meaning from your childhood to the present day. And then I want you to rate them from 1 to 10. Now, you could have 20 number 7s. I don't care. You could skip a number. I also don't care. This is your party. And then I want you to start with the number 1s. I want you alone in a room. You don't have to call these people. And remember, you can include dead people in your list. You can include your parents. Families really mess us up, don't they? So it could be somebody, a family member, more than likely. You can put yourself as a number 10. This is the first book of 3. The second one's all about how to forgive yourself. So you might be your own number 10, but I want you to start with the easy ones. And I want you to put your hand on your heart. And the words are really only for us stupid humans. It's the energy behind the words that means the most. And then I want you to say, I completely forgive Marianne. I forgive the energy around Marianne. I completely forgive myself. I forgive the energy around myself. I completely forgive the energy around the entire situation. Amen. So it is. Godspeed. Good, whatever, however you want to end it, do it. Then I want you to check in with your body. Is that number 1 a 0? Are you still mad? No? Cross their name off. This happened to a friend of mine. Well, they were a 1, but now they've bumped up to a 7 because now I wasn't mad before, but now I'm really pissed. Why? Well, forgiveness is an onion. You cleared the first layer of the onion, and your brain is the most beautiful, magical thing in the world, and it protects you. And what it did, it's like, ooh, Marianne started the work. I'm going to open up that back closet in her brain that's been padlocked for decades, and I'm going to flood her with memories that she doesn't remember. She's going to now. So, if that number 1 person jumped to a 7, okay, put the number 7 on their list, put it at the back of the pile, and keep going. It's a magical thing, and how better you will feel. But please do it before bed, because most people get really tired after they do this kind of work. And please don't do more than 10 at a time. And if you're dealing with people you've rated 8, 9, 10, only do 1 or 2 at a time, because the energy is going to be so thick, it could hurt you. When I do my own exercises. I'm my own guinea pig. And when I first came up with this, I must have had a list of like 50 people.
Mm.
And I thought, I'm going to be like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I'm going to do this tonight before bed. I'm going to wake up a brand new person tomorrow. I'm going to be like a butterfly coming out of the cocoon. Okay, what most people don't know is that poor caterpillar turns into goo, and then it becomes the butterfly. Most people don't know that. So I did forgive many people on the list, but I also spent the next 3 days in bed with what everybody thought was a stomach flu. It was not the stomach flu. It was my body trying to mitigate decades of anger and remove it from my body. Your body heals itself at night. So if you only do, anywhere from 5 to 10 at night, your body should be able to mitigate that while you're sleeping. So do as I say, not as I did.
I want to back up because I think that we likely could lose some people when we start getting into the whole conversation around the energy, right? It's an energy thing. Forgive the inanimate objects, the table, the walls, the room. Talk to me about how we can get our head around how that really matters and how it's different. It's not just about saying the words, but really tapping into the energy. Like, how do we make people that are not naturally sort of living in the land of the wooey stuff, like, how do we get them there? How do we get them to believe this?
Here's some science.
Yeah.
I actually have an entire chapter on science for anybody who does not believe a word of that I'm saying. It was a study done in Japan. It's called the Japanese Water Study by a guy named, I know this isn't exactly right, it's Matsumoto or something like that. If you Google Japanese Water Study, you'll get it right away. And what the guy did is he took several containers of water. One container of water, he just spoke love to. That's all he did. He just talked to the water. And he said how beautiful it was and how much he loved it. And he did this for a significant amount of time. The other container of water, he just spoke hate to. The most hateful things he could come up with, he pummeled that container of water. He then froze the water and put the water under a microscope. The water he spoke love to had these beautiful, gorgeous snowflake kind of transformations. Beautiful. The water he spoke hate to had black and brown, sludgy kind of likeness to it. Lookness. That's not even English. It's like these crystals that were black and brown and they were kind of nasty. Now, why am I telling you this? The human body is over 95% water. So when your self-talk is negative, when you're living in hate and anger, what do you think you're doing to the water cells within your body? And what are those black and brown water cells doing to your organs? That's why many people say stress and anger is toxic. This is the how.
I love that study.
So if you don't think there's energy around other objects, think of the water cells within your own body as you say this mantra. And if you still don't believe me, say the following for the next 5 days. I completely forgive myself for not being able to forgive and the energy around this thought. Say that every day for the next 5 days. And I promise you, your brain is going to start to work and you're going to start to remember things.
Interesting.
There's always somebody to forgive. Are you into sports? Did your football team lose last week? Forgive the team. You can forgive anything. You can forgive politicians, dare I say. You can forgive the war in the Middle East. What's it going to do for the war in the Middle East? Absolutely nothing. But it's going to really help you. If you get angry at something, it can be forgiven. It's just a question of is it a level 1, a 5, a 10? It can be forgiven. Everything can be forgivable.
And everything goes back to it being about helping you.
Yes.
So that makes me wonder, what if I'm somebody that still feels raw about it? I'm hurt. I'm frustrated. I'm mad. Maybe it only happened a year ago. I don't know. Maybe it was 10 and I still feel all those things. I guess that's possible. So is it your thought that forgiving the person, forgiving the event, forgiving the energy around it will release those other emotions as well?
You're going to chip away at it.
Okay.
And it's perfectly normal to be angry at something that happened in grammar school because you might be triggered. Maybe you're driving down the street. Let's use this as an example. I've said this one before. You're driving down the street and you're going to work. And for some reason, you decide to take a different route. Maybe there was traffic or something. And the other route takes you by your old elementary school where you were bullied.
Yeah.
And by the time, and you don't pay a lick of attention to it because, well, you don't. You're an adult. So, but by the time you get to your work, you're grumpy for no reason at all. Well, It's because all these things are like playing in a movie in the back of your mind. And it's a movie that's continuously playing, but you don't even know it's there.
Yeah.
Because if you knew it's there, you would clear it, but you don't. So by the time you get to work, you're grumpy and you're just kind of biting everybody's heads off. And everybody's like, did you not sleep? Well, something happened? And you have no idea. You said, no, I got a lot of sleep. I have no idea what's going on. I do. You passed by your school and the memory was right there and it triggered you. It was a trigger. How do you remove that trigger? Okay, well, you go back into the memory. Now, maybe you're not ready to clear the bully or the energy around the bully. That's fine. Pick out other parts of the memory. Let's clear the school, the energy around the school. Why don't we forgive the table, the playground, the swing set, the people that stood around and didn't help you. Let's forgive all those people and the energy around it. Now, what's that going to do for you? It's going to allow you to live your life again. You know, you're paying such attention to the anger, you're missing parts of your life.
Yeah.
You know, it's a visual which you guys can't see, but if I hold this coffee cup in front of my face right now, let's say this coffee cup is anger. I can hold it off to the side. Super easy. I can manage my anger. Marianne, what are you talking about? I can manage this. I'm fine. And people are saying to you, of course you're fine. But the longer I hold on to this cup, you know, humans irritate other humans. You know, we're going to continue to put stuff in the cup. It's not just the bully and grammar school. You know, we're adults. We have a lot of stuff in the cup. It's starting to get heavy. Yeah. So now I'm using two hands to hold up the cup. It's starting to get into my conversations. It's starting to get my attention. And if I keep holding on to it, well, now I'm holding the cup right in front of my face. Both hands I'm using to hold up the cup. And it's all I can talk about. Even though I'm spinning the stories funny, I'm still telling them. Anger is all I can talk about now. So as you forgive other parts of the memory, the table, the chair, the building, the date, the city, as you pull apart these memories, it's going to take your anger so you can now manage it. And now I can, again, hold it off to the side. That's why you forgive the ones, the twos, and the threes. So now you look at my body language. Now I can pay attention again. Now I can see a money-making opportunity or a new way to lose weight. Or maybe my dream significant other just walked in. Why didn't I see it before? Because I was too angry and it was all I was focusing on. I missed it. I wasn't paying attention. I was paying attention to my past. I was paying attention to the anger. So that's why I tell people pick apart the memory or start with the ones. Forgive what you can and keep going so you can live your life. Is the anger completely gone? No, I'm still holding it off to the side, but I'm holding it off to the side now. My life is opened up. I can see things again. And if you ever can finally forgive that number 10, circle back later and give it another go. Forgive what you can and keep going.
I like the analogy about the cup because it helps you visualize. And you said it. You said it could be playing in the background, right? I think it's important to pop that out because
Sure.
When people hear you say you might be living in this anger and that's all you're thinking about, you might also not be really thinking about it, or
Probably
think
not.
you're not thinking, or think you're not thinking about it,
Yeah.
right? But it's still at play. Your point is it's still very much at play.
Mm-hmm.
Your energy is still very much holding this cup up, right? This analogy of the cup. And so that energy, therefore, can't be focused on other things in your life. So whether you really are walking around knowing I'm an angry person or not, it's still there. So I think it's worth probably calling that out.
And that's why starting with the easy ones and working your way up to the dumpster fires, it's going to allow you to move that little glass of anger off to the side so you can start living your life again. So, Katharine, well, what if I never get to my unforgivable? Then you don't get to your unforgivable. Your life is going to open up. Maybe you can only clear enough people, and the people you labeled an 8, 9, 10, you're not there yet. Okay, try next month. Wait a month and do it again. Keep doing the easy ones.
Yeah. So you mentioned another book coming out, and it was one of my questions I wanted to ask about is self-forgiveness. What have you learned there? Because I have to think, at least for many of us, that once we get to a certain age, there's times in our lives where we probably didn't choose the same thing we wish we had chosen now that we look back, or we did something that we probably wish we didn't do, whatever. What's the best way to get past that? Is it the same? Is it the same methodology?
The methodology is the same, is very similar to forgiving the unforgivable. Forgiving yourself is a bear.
Mm.
It's a bear. And it may take more than one round of forgiveness to even remotely tap the surface. So what I did is I picked apart my life. I picked apart the bad memories, and I picked one bad memory. And the one I started with was when I was in the 8th grade. I tried to commit suicide. That was a bear to me because there was a reason why I didn't want to be around anymore. So I couldn't forgive myself for wanting to do it. So I picked apart the memory. I forgave my childhood home. I forgave the school where the bullies were. I forgave Central Park. I lived in New York. I forgave all sorts of other things, and I still hadn't even gotten to myself. And then I kept doing that until I was finally to a point where I could forgive myself a little. So the 10 went down to a 9. So you're not going to get a 10 down to a 1 overnight. It's just not going to happen. But another thing is the person I was way back all those decades ago is not who I am today.
Yeah.
She had to create that persona to survive using the limited tools she had at her disposal. Would I make the same choice today? No, because I'm 100% more wise than I was there. I've learned stuff. I'm about to be 64. A lot of water under the bridge. Life smacked me around a couple times.
Yeah.
And you learn. I don't believe in failure. You either learn or you win. That's it. You learn or you win. Those are the two things. So I've learned a lot. And so I can I always trip over this word, compartmentalize my life. And I went from, the teenage Katharine, and I picked that apart and I kind of dealt with that. And then when I thought I was through, then I picked apart 20 something and 30 something. It took a while, but you pick away at it. And, at the end of the day, if you never can forgive yourself for whatever bad thing it is that you did, well, you can forgive the energy around yourself, and you can forgive yourself for having to do that at all because you did it because at the time, it's just what happened.
As you try to knock I'll say your ratings down from a 10 or even from a 6 to a 5 or whatever, when you try to knock them down, in my head, I was thinking, part of that is probably around coming to terms with the lens in which maybe that person was operating with at that time. Like when I think about parents, for example, maybe they're at a 10 for you, but you can get to the point where you forgive all the other things and you realize, yeah, they did that really crappy thing, but maybe it was the best they could do, or it's what they had learned from their parents. And to your point at the very beginning, we're not saying it's right, but is that part of it? Is that really part of it? Just understanding that there is, a version of them or a lens in which you can see that why, I guess, maybe why.
That's how I forgave my father at the end of the day. I realized, and I picked it apart. I picked apart the memories. I forgave the energy. I forgave all sorts of buildings and people and that. But at the end of the day, the way I finally forgave him for good is I realized that he did the best he could with the tools he had at the time. Was it good enough? No, it wasn't. It was far from it, but it was the best he could do with the limited tools.
Yeah.
It's like trigonometry. If you are 5 years old, I can't get mad at you for not knowing trigonometry because you haven't learned it yet. So I can't get mad at that. This is the same thing. I mean, I was mad at him for years, but at the end of the day, he really did the best he could with the limited tools. Had he lived longer, would he have learned those tools? Maybe, maybe not. But I can forgive the man that he was.
Yeah.
And I finally did.
Same with ourselves.
Yep. I can forgive the person I was.
Yeah.
Would I make a different choice today if given the chance? Yes. If I was put in a time machine, would I go back and make a different choice? Yes. But I don't have a time machine. So this is the best that I can do. And at the end of the day, that's how I got to forgiving myself, because it's a different perspective. And you realize that young kid or that young adult, your younger self, they did the best that they could. Yeah. They don't know what you know today.
Yeah. So thinking that through, then, is there a time and place where forgiveness is impossible?
Yes. Didn't think I'd say that, huh?
I don't know.
I actually think there are unforgivable things in this world. 100%. I think that everybody has a different level of tolerance to pain. Mm-hmm. And what I think is unforgivable, I'm never going to be able to get there. Somebody else might look at the same situation and say, I can forgive that. So everybody's pain tolerance to unforgivable is different. But at the end of the day, if you think it's unforgivable and it's completely unforgivable, that's fine. Just pull apart the memory. Forgive other things within the memory. Just forgive the energy. Or say to yourself, I completely forgive myself for not being able to forgive Martha and the energy around this thought, and just keep going.
So that's the safety net.
If that's all you can do, that's all you can do. Try again next month or tomorrow night. But there's always something you can forgive. But yeah, there are some things in the world that are unforgivable. Now, are there completely unique unicorn people out there that probably can? Yes. Now, let me just give you one little PSA. As you forgive people, your life is going to change. So one of three things is going to happen. Jim Rohn has a very famous quote. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So who are you spending your time with? So as you forgive, you're going to start living in more joy. You're going to start living in more happiness. And you're going, like energy attracts like energy. So you're going to be attracting new people into your life. Great. Okay, there's another side of that coin. Because there are going to be 2 other groups. One group I call the jackrabbits. And the jackrabbits are going to see the person you're turning into, and they're going to leave your life. Boom. The new term, I think, is ghosting. And they're just going to leave. They're just going to leave. You may never know why. I had a bunch of jackrabbits that to this day I've still never heard from. Then you're going to have the people you probably live with who are going to try and sabotage you. Why? Because they like the old you. They like that old vibration. They're perfectly happy with it. So they're going to try and sabotage it. So just be aware that you're doing the right thing. And as you live more joyful and as you live in more happiness, you are going to be attracting a completely new group of people. So just stay the course.
What do you say to people, though, about, so you decide you're going to work on this and you decide you're going to do it, and it's an evolution. So it's going to take, I don't know, months, weeks, at least multiple times, probably years. But what do you say to people that say, well, I had it in my past and I wasn't thinking about it. These things weren't in my, day-to-day life. And now I'm looking at this list. Now I'm focusing on all of these things that I need to forgive. Aren't I focusing on the wrong things? I'm focusing on the negatives. What do you say to that?
You're focusing on the negatives to clear them. We were all raised as kids, at least I was. I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and we were raised to ignore our negative feelings. And, if you're crying, I'll give you something to cry about, suck it up. We were told that negative feelings were bad.
Yeah.
You should be positive all the time. Susie Sunshine from Sunnybrook Farms. I'm sorry, that's not sustainable. At some point, you're not going to be able to be Susie Sunshine. So focusing on the negative stuff, yes, you're focusing on the negative parts of your body and the negative parts of your life so you can clear them forever. Mm-hmm. So before I go to bed, the first thing I do is I think of the 3 things I'm most grateful for. It could be I had a hot cup of coffee today. Maybe it was one of those kinds of days, but I always write down something. I have running water. We have clean running water coming out of our taps.
Yeah.
And if it's not clean running water, at least we have water.
Yeah. So
there's always something to be grateful for. And then I go into my forgiveness stuff, and there's always somebody I can forgive because, humans are kind of stupid that way. We irritate each other. So there's always something you can forgive, however small. And I do it every night. And what I can tell you is I really did have a lot of negative stuff, and I focused on the negative for years. And now I don't. I can legitimately look back at my life and I can remember the pockets of yuck that were back there, but not so much anymore. Mm. I really just look at the love that was back there. And the rest of it, it's kind of neutral. There's no emotional charge at all. I can look at my old business partner and I don't care. If I saw them at a party, hey, I'm the queen of small talk, man. I'm good at it.
And so it just becomes a daily practice. This literally just becomes a daily practice that you do forever then.
And what happens when I go to a party and somebody really irritates me? What do? Well, I have been known to go out to my car and say, I forgive them. I forgive them. I forgive them. I forgive them. I forgive them over and over and over. Do I mean any of it? Absolutely not. But it kind of puts me back in that forgiveness mode, even though I don't mean it. I'm just paying lip service to it. There's no energy behind these forgivings. It's just, it's just to remind me. And then they go on my nightly list. They might even be a 10, could be a 7, but they will be popped virtually immediately onto my list until I can clear them. But that's the first thing I do is I will repeat, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you, you son of a, I forgive you.
But what changes? Like, what changes it from being just words that you're going through the action of doing because you know you're supposed to, you know that it will help you. And then eventually to really having some hold and, getting to the energy, the negative energy. Where's the shift?
When you say I forgive, the energy around the person, it changes you. And that's really the magic to it. And 1 minute, there's no energy behind it. And then you do it enough and you say you forgive this person enough for multiple nights in a row. And you keep checking in with your body. And that number 7, one night goes down to a 5. And you're thinking, wait a minute, I put a 5 next to that person. It's going to work. This is, this energy works whether you believe it or not. It's like the law of gravity. The law of gravity, I can call it anything I want. I can call it the law of keeping Marianne on the planet. It's still going to work. It doesn't care.
Yeah.
I don't believe in the law of gravity. Okay, it's still going to work. It still doesn't care. This energy is really serious, and it has the potential to change the water cells in your body. Here's a true story that's going to stretch most people's brains. I apologize in advance. It won't be painful, I promise. I did a level 1 person when I first came up with this, and I went to school with her, and I couldn't even remember what we were angry about, and we were very tight back in grammar school, whenever it was, and I hadn't seen her in decades. There's an S, decades, like 30 decades, and 30 years. And so I sat down and I remembered who she was, and I thought about her as I knew her then, not the adult. I imagined the kid was standing right in front of me, and I forgave her. Super easy. Saying that affirmation that I said at the beginning of the program. And then I forgot about it. 3 hours later, she calls me up on the phone. Now, I am a customer service concierge trainer, and that personality kicked in virtually immediately because I was shocked to my core. So my training virtually immediately kicked in, and we said the right things and made the right noises and did what people do, and we reminisced, but I couldn't stand it. I said, after all these years, why did you call me today? I haven't spoken to you in 30 years. She said, it's the damnedest thing. A figurine you gave me in school that I had on my shelf floated off the shelf and landed in the middle of my room 3 hours ago, which was exactly when I was saying this affirmation. This is a true story. She was 700 miles away from me. So if forgiveness energy has the power to move a figurine 700 miles away for a level 1 person, imagine what it's going to do to your body, and imagine what it's going to do to your life when you get into those higher number of people.
I love that story. I do think it's a stretch for some people, but
it's a huge stretch for some people.
I personally do believe that. I like the story or the study of the water and the formations because, to your point in your chapter, that's science. And even
it's science.
Yeah. So people that really are very focused on the data and the facts, I don't know how you can deny that one. So that's a really good one.
You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And if you don't believe the energy, that's totally fine. Of course, energy is the reason we're able to talk to each other right now. And you can't see it, but yet here we are having a conversation, and we're hundreds of miles away from each other. But if you can't, just give it lip service. Just say, I completely forgive Marianne and the energy around Marianne. And if you don't believe in the energy, just say it anyways. And that energy, it's going to start to work, whether you believe it or not. It's going to start to work, and your life's going to open up. But please, 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 with every fiber of my being, please do the easy ones first and work your way up. Do not start with the hard ones.
I really, really love the fact that you're openly saying you don't do anything different. Just give it lip service. Just say the words, and that it just transforms on its own, because that's what, I really think, I was thinking to myself before we started talking, like, what changes? And to your point is myself, I don't have to change anything. Just keep doing the same thing. It's going to change is what you're saying to people. So yeah,
it's going to change.
Yeah.
You have nothing to lose
and
everything to gain. What if everything I'm saying is correct? Your life is going to be better. Nobody's ever taught you how to forgive. This is the how. And it's an easy method that everybody can do. And there's worksheets and all sorts of stuff in the book to help people.
What do you think is the most misunderstood aspect of forgiveness?
I said it at the beginning of the program, actually, and it is 100% the number one thing that trips everybody up. For some reason, people think if I forgive you, then I'm giving in and it means you were right. Trips everybody up. And I can't tell you how wrong that statement is. It's absolutely 100% incorrect. I forgive for me. It's selfish. I'm doing it for you, me. I'm not doing it for you. You're still awful. You know, in women, we want our exes to be as miserable as us, right? We want them to wallow as much as we are, but they're not wallowing, are they? They're living their life. They're dating again. They're happy. And we're sitting here eating a pint of Ben and Jerry's ice cream, completely miserable.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what I want. I want them to be miserable too, but they're not going to be. So forgiveness is going to free you because you're the prisoner. You're the one sitting there in the middle of your floor eating the ice cream. Oh, maybe that's just me.
No, well, no, me too. But I love that point because, and maybe it's just that, I mean, they may not even in their mind have done anything wrong, right? So, but this whole thing goes on the premise of who cares? Who cares? Obviously, there's some big dumpster fire, 10 things that nobody could,
Sure.
They were obviously problematic, but there's also those nuances where everybody's got their side, everybody's got their perspective. It doesn't matter though. The point is, it's your perspective is what stuck with you in your energy. Release those things, and then you feel better. You operate differently.
And ignore if you're having a family problem and it's your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your cousin, and you've got family around you who are saying, I don't know what your problem is. I have no problem with this, people. You're crazy. Why can't you forgive them? This is stupid easy. With all due respect, I don't care about them. You think it's a problem. You think it's unforgivable. Then you're going to forgive them in the privacy of your own home. I don't care about them. I don't care about your sibling calling you crazy. I don't care. You're the one that has the problem. If you think it's a problem, it's a problem, and you can clear it through forgiveness. And you don't even have to tell your family that you've done this. You're just going to show up one day and they're going to say, did you change your hair? Or did you lose weight? There's something about you that's just different. And you can either tell them or not. It's completely up to you.
Yeah, I love that.
But it's because you're more positive. Your cup is filled with positivity now as opposed to anger. So what's this going to do? Let's take one last example. Let's say, and I only use the name Martha because I don't have an Aunt Martha. So it's a safe name. Well, let's say at Thanksgiving, you sit next to Aunt Martha every year. My mother used to say every family's the same, only the names are different. We all have an Aunt Martha. She drinks. And she's very negative. She probably smells because she doesn't change her dress very often. And she loves to push buttons and make people mad. She takes joy in it, and she drinks a lot. So the more she drinks, the worse it gets. And there's nothing you can do about it because she's like 152 years old. So there's nothing you can do. And you've asked your parents to not sit you next to this aunt, but she's going to be there. So what do? Okay, well, if you can't forgive Aunt Martha, before you get to the party, I want you to pick out a memory, particular Christmas or Thanksgiving that was most horrible, and forgive other things in the memory. Forgive the chair she sits in. Forgive the energy around Aunt Martha. Do it whether you believe in energy or not. Forgive the table. Forgive the family members that are just sitting around watching the show because they know you're going to go off. They know you're going to get angry. And do that and keep picking out different memories. So by the time you get to Thanksgiving and you sit next to Aunt Martha, what's going to happen? Is it going to change Aunt Martha? No, she's still a lush. She's still going to drink. She's still going to push your buttons. But it won't work this time. You won't care. In fact, you might laugh about it because you're expecting it. And it's not going to affect you because you won't care. And that, my friends, is total peace.
Yeah, you shift it. I love that. Oh, this has been a fabulous conversation. I so appreciate you sharing all your wisdom with us and what you've learned. Where can people find you?
They can find me at katharinegiovanni.com. And Katharine, thanks to my mother, is spelled a little odd. Thanks, Mom. And it's Katharine Giovanni.com. You can also go to Amazon. The audiobook, the ebook, and the paperback are all available for you.
And we'll put the link in the show notes for people that didn't get a chance to grab that. When can we expect the next book? Sounds like a good one.
I am writing it as we speak, and it's going to be about how to forgive yourself. And I'm going to throw a chapter in there to how to forgive money. hello. Energy.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. A lot of people have problems with it.
You'll have to come back and talk to us about that when it comes out.
I will.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Message in the Middle with Marianne. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take a minute to share it and write a review, as it helps bring new listeners to our audience. If you'd like to keep the conversation going between episodes, please join us at Facebook group Message in the Middle with Marianne.